You said it.
I know I said it. The point is I don't want anyone to hear me say it.
I'm a documentarian, Detective Pendleton, and it's my job to honestly reflect reality.
The way that I try to make my films is so that you, the audience, forget that there's a camera, and it's as if you're seeing life unfold.
They're treating us like that we're animals, dogs. Well, we aren't. We're American citizens.
And I didn't want their history to be erased. I didn't want them to be silenced.
They said I was too fat, too black, too short, and too old. And look at me now. All this hard work is finally paying off.
And the way that I look at it is maybe I'll never be lucky enough to do another film. And so I better make this the best that I can.
It was like a scene from some movie where these troops came walking out of what looked like out of the middle of a fireball.
And I realized that if I couldn't inspire people enough to put across my vision, that there had to be ways to do it myself.
And the winner is Harland County, USA, Barbara Kopple.
I accept this award on the behalf of the miners of Harland County, who took us into their homes, trusted us, and shared their love with us.
This is the Hindsight Owl.
A total surprise. Thank you. And Andrew, you should come down too. Andrew, come down. Thank you for going through all that. How hard was it?
To make the video?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I'm not going to say I'm an expert or anything, but I definitely had a lot of fun making it. Yeah.
And Andrew also edited all the trailers for all the short blocks that you've seen. He just knocked those out, no notes, you know. And this one, he wrapped it up today. We just did the final audio mix, and he just sent it up to the booth. You were done with it 3 hours early. You were good. Yeah, he was back there playing video games or something. No, he was editing his next film, I think. But I told him, Andrew, take a break. We're going to show your video. So yeah.
I was playing video games.
Oh. Well, thank you very much, and thank you to all of you for making me feel so loved and so welcome. Thank you.
So we're going to watch Harland County, and then we're going to have a conversation with Barbara and George Dawes Green.
Can I just say it is the most amazing thing to go to what I have to say is, and just in my opinion, the greatest documentary ever made. And then to be trying to watch this movie, but to be seated next to a lady who is reacting viscerally to every single scene and hissing and booing when the villains are on, and then weeping and when any tragedy happens. And that was an amazing experience. Tell me why you're wearing that scarf.
This scarf was given to me by a great singer named David Morris, who sang in this film. And whenever I've saved it for all these years, and whenever I'm showing Harland County, I wear it to think of him. So.
Yeah. You know, there's so many things that we could talk about. So many layers of brilliance of this movie. I just want to focus, though, on one thing to begin with, which is the story, because it is it's a kind of a sneaky thriller that when you come to the movie and you start watching, you think you're going to be watching, a movie, a documentary about mine workers and a strike, and this is something that happened to me nearly 40 years ago, and happened again tonight, and every time I've seen it in between, is that you start watching that movie and then you're starting to watch a thriller, and it's an extraordinary thriller, and it features, this movie I think features one of the great most terrifying villains I've ever seen in Basil Collins. But tell us about
Okay, Basil Collins.
Basil Collins. Tell me what was the scariest moment?
Well, the scariest moment is now that he passed away, but they named a bridge after him in Harland County. So that wasn't so good. His scariest moment was when he pointed that gun at us, and I had to scream at the top of my lungs, "Don't shoot." But he had always been nice to me because he let me interview sort of the strikebreakers, the scabs, and he let me go into the line and, watch all his cars going up. And I guess he thought that I was a little girl or something because he said, well, I would like to put your hair in ink or something like that. He'd say really silly things to me. But he was also a guy who survived the Bataan Death March. Yeah.
So one of the things that comes through is that he's a villain because he seems real, and he also does seem to. I mean, what did you think?
Very funny is that when I had just made the film and some people were calling up to do interviews, they said, "Is Basil Collins, really from there?" And I said, "Oh no, I got him from Central Casting." And they went, really? I went, no, I'm only kidding. But people thought that.
But he doesn't. The reason that he's so powerful to me is that, like everything that happens in this movie is not out of Central Casting. It's all. I mean, it's all very, very clear and, and real, and scary. And but it develops in this. I mean, it doesn't start. It's not as though you're putting together a story to be scary. It's all happening.
Well, when I first came to Harland County, nobody knew who we were. We just looked like these hippies or something from New York. And what was happening was they said, okay, you can come to the picket line tomorrow. Come at 4 a.m. And so we got up, and it was pouring rain, and we were staying at some little motel on the top of the mountain. And as we're driving down, another car skids in front of us, and our car goes over because there's no guardrails or anything. And we were all okay, and we crawled out of the windows, and we walked in the rain with all our equipment and everything. And then from that time on, they took us into their homes, and they trusted us. I mean, at the beginning, the women called us names like, I'm Florence Nightingale, or I'm Betsy Ross, or like that.
But then it seemed to. I mean, one of the reasons that the movie is so powerful is that we are soon identifying with you, even though you're not in the movie, except a few, stray lines. Little glimpses now and then, but we can begin to feel that we are. It's this great POV movie where we feel viscerally that we are you, and you must have been terrified sometimes, often.
When I first got to Harland County, one of the head organizers, his name's Houston Elmore, said, "Please come in here." And I went in, and he opened this box, and he said, "Pick your gun." And, I grew up in Scarsdale, New York. And so there was a little pink one. I picked that one. But later on in the strike, they taught me how to use a .357 Magnum. I had big, rifles, and if you didn't put it completely on, your arm, you'd get bruised from shooting them. So they taught me how to shoot. So nobody better mess with me now. But
wait, were you really packing?
Not on the picket lines. At nights, they shoot.
You
in.
really were.
Yeah.
Yeah, with your
if we went to
357
the
Magnum.
bathroom at night because there was no, there
Yeah.
was outside commodes and you didn't know who was outside. So we had a buddy system, and we would walk out, to go to the bathroom. And once we heard like a rustling in the bushes, and we pulled our guns, and it was just a dog. But it was very frightening.
Tell us about that terrifying scene where suddenly the night is just exploding with gunfire.
The one where I was beaten up, okay.
Wait, the first one, the
first
one,
one.
yeah, where suddenly there's all of the gunfire, and then we see,
Yeah.
and then we get a glimpse of,
Yeah.
of
Well, it was
Basil.
maybe about 4 or 5 in the morning, and they came across, and I could tell they were coming right for the camera. And I thought, okay, I brought the camera here, I brought these people here, and I just walked forward, and they got me, and they kicked me, but it didn't hurt because I had my Nagra from here to here with a plastic case, and I just started swinging with my microphone back at them. And then they got Hart and tried to ruin his camera. He was the DP. And Ann Lewis, who was the associate producer who did the magazines, and the assistant camera person then. And it was pretty scary. That was pretty scary. But we wanted to fight back. We fought back.
and were you in touch with your parents at this time? I mean, you were young. How old were you?
In my early 20s.
Yeah.
But yes, so I called my parents and I said, hi. You had to go to a payphone. We just got machine gunned today. And my mother said, you come right home. I forbid you to stay there another minute. And I said, oh, Mom, I'm only kidding. And she said, well, don't ever tease me like that. I said, I won't, I promise. But yes.
So when did she? I guess she didn't know until she saw the movie.
Yeah, we
that it was
invited
all real.
her to the premiere of she and my dad to the premiere of Lincoln Center, and they were just didn't know what to say.
Oh my gosh!
Because I didn't say a word about the film from then on.
Wow!
So I didn't want to worry them. We showed it at the New York Film Festival, and it was pretty exciting. I had the women and the coal miners come, and we all slept on the floor of where I lived because I lived where I worked. And we passed out, and Hazel Dickens came to sing, and we passed out song sheets that had the last song of the film, You'll Never Let Us Down. And we put them in everybody's, booklet. And it was pretty cool. Because when Hazel came out, she started singing, and the whole room started singing with her. And Lois Scott, who was the woman who took the gun out of her dress, was so incredible. She had just been made head of the Black Lung Association. So she decided she was going to fundraise at Alice Tully Hall. And here I was, it's my first film, Alice Tully Hall, 1,500 people are there. And Lois is asking for money, right? And so I'm in the corner laughing, and she yells, she forgets she's Mike, she yells, Barbara, you come out here and you stuff this money in your bra, we need this. And people were throwing $5 and $10 and $20 bills on the stage.
And so they were all moved, and they were very pleased by this.
Yeah, I was really nervous that what if they didn't like it, but they loved it.
Well, I mean, it's such a profound emotional experience.
Also,
but
too, Lois had bought a new dress,
Yeah.
and she still had the tag hanging from it. And they gave us little plastic glasses of champagne. And, she drank it, and then she put it in her purse. And I said, why would you put that, plastic thing? So people will believe me when I go back to Harland County. And then in Harland County, we showed it. And the Ku Klux Klan was around, and they killed a goat because they didn't want us to show it.
Why?
Because they didn't like the politics of it.
And what does killing a goat have
It
to?
just
How did
symbolized-
How did that advance their cause?
It symbolized we're going to get you.
Oh,
It
okay.
was to make us scared.
And what is it that
And
the
they
Ku Klux
rolled
Klan
in-
didn't like about this movie?
What?
What is it that they didn't like? That it was about unions, or
That it was progressive and it was for unions, and yeah, they didn't want it, you know. And it was probably a lot of the company people too. But it was so beautiful because people came, and there was one guy that came in on a hospital stretcher who was dying of black lung, and he wanted to see it, and it was just incredible. And the women sat on one side and the men sat on the other, and by the end of it, they were all sitting next to each other and, you know, enjoying it. And then other people would come up to me and say, "Why wasn't I in it more?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, you didn't want to be." But I mean, it was the most incredible experience. And and then when we got the Academy Award,
Yeah.
okay. So all the documentarians were sitting together, and we all crisscrossed arms when, you know, it came up, and they said Harlan County, USA, and they pushed me up, and I could feel my heart beating, you know, in the room, and it was just sensational. Lillian Hellman, who wrote Julia and many wonderful books, gave me the Academy Award, and it was the first time she had been given the right to come to the Academy since she had been blacklisted for so long.
Oh my gosh.
So that was incredibly moving.
Yeah.
And then I called the miners after, and they said, "We're riding around in our cars and screaming, 'We won an Academy Award! We won an Academy Award!'" It was just so great.
And so 50 years later, is it, and you've had this incredible career and made so many beautiful movies. Is this, where does this rank in your list of favorites?
Number one.
Number one still, yeah. It did seem, yeah. Yeah.
Barbara, what is your next film?
It's my third film on unions, and it's modern day unionism. And it's about the haves and the have-nots. It takes place all in New York. And the working title is Uniontown. And Tom Morelli is letting us use his song, Uniontown, which is really nice. And it's the Teamsters and UPS, the Teamsters and Amazon, and the people they call the deliveristas, who are people who deliver on bicycles or motorcycles, you know, people's noodle soup or coffee or bagels or whatever. And it's really getting to know them and know who they're about. The deliveristas are immigrants, and they could get deported at any time. They have to buy all their own clothes and their bikes, and if anything happens to them and they go to the hospital, they're responsible for that too. And sometimes the apps don't pay them, and they say, "Well, if you don't like it, we'll get you deported, and we'll call ICE," and things like that. So it's just a real look at what people are up against now.
Yeah.
Got a question down front here. Here you go.
What is going on today in Harlan County?
Well, I'll let you know in September that we're going to show the film in Harlan County. The two coal mines aren't functioning anymore, and the place where all the meetings were, the multipurpose center, isn't there, and they built, you know, places for people to live there, so it's going to be much different. They used to be pretty progressive politically there, and I think they're not anymore. A lot of the people that I've known have either passed away or moved away, but I'm going to show the film in Harlan County in September, so I'm really looking forward to it. I'm calling, if not the people I'm calling, there are their children or their grandchildren. So we'll have a lot of people whose relatives and kin of all kinds, were in the movie.
When you started the process of making this movie, what did you anticipate the scope of this movie would be?
Well, I started it because Arnold Miller, who was right out of the coal fields, was running against, W.A. Tony Boyle. And the miners had never had an election before this one. The one that they had with Jock Yablonsky running against Boyle. Yablonsky, his wife and daughter were killed. And so they had a movement that just swelled through the coal fields called Miners for Democracy. And so Arnold Miller won. And I wanted to see if he was really going to keep his promises of organizing the unorganized. And I found out that there was a possible strike going to be going on in eastern Kentucky in Harlan, and off I went. And I lived there for a very long time. I'd come back and forth to try to raise money. And that was also a time when they didn't really check your American Express card, And so a lot of the film was made on my American Express card.
I was just curious, as someone that's from New York, what was your relationship to the American South growing up, and did it change through making this movie?
I think that in talking about my relationship, I should talk about my parents. My parents were people who were so loving and so generous and adored each other and adored myself and my brother. And they sort of gave me the guts and the courage and the confidence to go out and do whatever I wanted to do with their blessing, except when I was machine gunned, come right home. But she knew I wouldn't come right home. But I think it all stems from them, not from the South, but being loved and being cared for and that.
I thought the soundtrack was perfect. The music just crystallized the setting. Did you record all of that while you were there?
No. All the sound I did. But I had Hazel Dickens, a lot of Hazel Dickens songs, and I was using them in the film. And she was playing at the Smithsonian. And so I flew to Washington and said, "Hi, Hazel, I'm Barbara, and I'm using all your music in my film on coal miners. Would you come up to New York and look at it and tell me if it's okay to use it?" And she did, and she let me use it for free. And she also, every time the film showed, she came and she played. And also David Morris, who gave me this, would play, and I would call him up as we were in editing, and I'd say, I need some underpinning for this scene and whatever, and he would do it. And he sang, Mannington and a lot of the songs in the film, and they were all from, West Virginia or Kentucky, the people who did the music, or Sarah Gunnings, who was from the 30s. So, and I filmed Florence Reese, who wrote Which Side Are You On, which, people sing all the time, and that was real. And I was in a room with some funders, I was hoping, and one of the clips I showed was Florence Reese, and they said, "That woman can't sing at all. We're not going to fund this film."
I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how you approached gaining the trust of subjects that you weren't necessarily already in contact with or like staying in the homes of. And then secondly, if you've noticed any shift in how people react to being filmed from the time this was filmed versus now.
Yes. Well, in Harland County, they, as I said before, they didn't trust us until we had that car accident. They were giving us different names. And then once they heard that, we had walked all the way, because in small towns, everything, travels fast, then they just opened their hearts and their homes to us. And these days, it's much harder to get the kind of access that you want to get, because people are afraid. It's the Trump administration. They're afraid what they might say. And so it's been tougher, but I think we've done it, because the footage that we got, I think, is really moving. It really tells a story. The hard part, though, is weaving in all these 3 stories, but I think that they're important to tell. They're all about, deliveries. And so we struggle every day in the edit room. And sometimes we feel, it's working. And then sometimes it's, torture trying to put it together, but we're doing it.
The incredible footage of the miners going into the mine on those belts that look like sort of airplane conveyor belts or whatever. Were you there? And was your DP also there? Did you all go in? You went into the mines?
Of course, yes. It was 5-foot mines, and we went in. And, I was dragging my Nagra, and heart was shooting. And yes, of course, we wouldn't have missed that for anything. I mean, I think you can't really know what people go through unless you really see them working and really feel them in those coal mines.
Can I just ask, were the miners, did they seem miserable to you down there? Did they seem joyful?
Well, they weren't joyful.
But,
it's
were
like
they...
It's being underground.
Right.
And getting all kinds of diseases and getting hurt, and it's cold, and, using machinery that could cut you to bits, or if there's a crack in the roof or something, a mine foreman will say to them, John, you have 6 kids, and, I think you should continue working. So it was the only job that there was.
Yeah.
Proud Kentuckian here.
Yeah.
And my daughter lives in Savannah. She bought this ticket for me because thank you, bless her heart. When this came out, this raised so much awareness of Eastern Kentucky, West Virginia, East Tennessee. My first trip to New York was in the late 70s, and when they found out I was from Kentucky, they looked under the table, and their comment was, "Well, you wear shoes."
Wow.
So there's a dichotomy in when you say you came down. Okay, I'm originally Central Kentucky, population 3,000. I can tell you right now, unless I tell them that I'm going to visit my aunt, I don't drive up that mountain at night.
Yeah.
And that's today. Harland County still has one of the highest unemployment rates. People have forgotten that this was a community that lived on scrip. Up until the 60s, they weren't paid in money. They were paid in scrip token. When you hear the lyrics of the Tennessee Ernie Ford song, "I owe my soul to the company store," in many ways, it's still prevalent today, because a lot of these people, this is all they know. They didn't know they could go to the doctor. They didn't know there was insurance. And until things like this came out, a lot of people were not aware of that. So for me, thank you very much for showing this and doing this.
Thank you very much for just pouring your heart out and saying the things that mean so much to you. In the 70s, though, they weren't getting script anymore. There wasn't a company store, but they were living in, company housing, that kind of thing, or trailers. But thank you. I really loved hearing from you. Thanks.
So I went to graduate film school about 28 years ago, and we studied you, and you're one of my heroes. So I knew you shot film. I didn't know you were carrying the Nagra. So I'm guessing you're not shooting film and carrying a Nagra anymore, but Can you talk a little bit about the difference in sort of accessibility from then to now?
When I was carrying a Nagra, then, if something wonderful was going on, it wasn't heavy. And I was one of the first people to use wireless mics. So I always had like Betsy, who stood up in the courtroom and said, laws aren't made for the working people in this country. I had mic'd her before. And so nobody, understood what wireless mics were. And also in the stockholders meeting, they said, only camera or sound can come in. So I put mics on all the people and I stayed outside and the camera went in. So we had perfect sound. We were fine. And today, yes, we shoot more, and I'm not doing sound. I stopped after doing a film called Wild Man Blues, which was a film about Woody Allen and his jazz band. So I know nobody will ever look at it, but but it was a wonderful, wonderful experience to do that film. But that was the last time I did sound, and I had done sound on films for over 20 years, so not doing it anymore.
Barbara, are you going back to Harland County?
September, want to come?
September, yeah. I would love to come. Will everybody else come?
Whoa, that's an invitation. Yeah, I'll be there.
Really?
Let me check my calendar, but I think so, yeah.
I just want to say this is, if those of us who won't be able to make it will be thinking about you in September, because it's this was such a moving event for me, and I think for everybody here. So thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you. I just want to say one thing before you go, guys. Thank you for being such a great audience and coming, and thank you for this festival. It's one of the best I've ever gone to. Keep it up.